Every David Bowie album began with a phone call out of the blue. Whereas we started out as really great friends, our lives obviously separated as soon as we got married and had kids and lived in different cities and all that. And this was one of those occasions where he just phoned out of the blue, and I thought I was never going to hear from him again, especially about making an album. And he said, I'd like to make a new album, and I don't know where it's going to be or what the music is. I've hardly written anything yet. But I said, well, I just worked in a studio in upstate New York. It's really beautiful up there. It's in the Catskill Mountains. You have to go up a winding road on a hill to get to the gate, and then you're let in through the gate by security. And once you get in there, it's paradise. It's rooms for a full band, roadies and all that. You know, the whole crew can live there and all that. And he said, let's go and see it. He goes into my humble abode, and we have a bedroom for him. He wanted to stay with me. And that was very weird. Why did he want to stay with me? He was married already to Iman, and he had a completely different life from mine. But he wanted to check me out. He even admitted it. He said, I wanted to see where your head is at. I said, well, where's your head at? My head's fine. How's yours? It was like a weird encounter for the first time after several years. He really did want to know if I was probably sane and I was capable of this. So he spent about 4 or 5 days, and I had a home studio with like one of those Tascam things that you put a cassette in, and you got like 16 tracks on a cassette, But we made a lot of demos, and he could see how adept I was, and I played bass or guitar. I even sang some backing vocals with him. And he said, right, let's make the album. Let's do it. He did say that he found this new muse. He said, this is going to be a very different album. I want it to sound huge. I might not write a hit single on it. There might, he says, but it's more important for me to make my commentaries on how I see the world and my life relating to it. We had quite a lot of philosophical talks. The music was life-changing to him too. It was a big new chapter he created. He turned the page to a big new chapter. So David hopped in the car with me, and we drove up to Allaire Studios, about 45 minutes away from where I lived. We were very welcomed. Everyone was kind of shocked to see him, but because it was me visiting. I didn't say who my guest was. And we walked around the premises, and we were invited to lunch by Natalie Merchant, who was making an album there. And she joined us for lunch and praised the studio and was very, very generous in letting us walk around, because that studio is very exclusive. It's almost like a private club. And so we walked around. We sat on one of her sessions. And David said, let's do it here. And we found out when the next available slot was, which wasn't far off. So we went back to my flat, made some more demos. Shortly afterwards, we found ourselves just himself, myself, my partner, and Iman came up for a visit in the middle of it. But we were very sparse. Our little team was very sparse, and we assembled a band with Matt Chamberlain on drums, and I was the bass player, backing singer. Whatever you wanted me to do, I would do it. And we had a very intimate session. It was really beautiful. The only other people who came was David Torn, who was this ethereal guitarist. He came with, the first time I ever saw a guitar player come with more than a couple of pedals, he came with a box of equipment, a flight case on wheels, and he had row after row of special effects. And his guitar playing was just out of this world. It was galactic, you know. Gave you goosebumps, and he was a main element to the texture of that album.
Like to know what's what. Hope the weather's good and it's not too hot for you. Everyone says hi. Everyone says hi. Everyone says don't stay in a sad place.
Well, between David and myself and David Torn, we could play a lot of instruments. And David played, for the first time, he played a lot of keyboards on that album. And he bought a Korg synthesizer. And he wasn't a programmer, but he used the presets, you know. So a lot of the lush string sounds that you hear on it is David actually playing them, but we used several different string sounds to make a large string orchestra. In other words, any one given sound wasn't good enough, but with multi-track tape, we just built up a huge string section on a lot of the songs. We ran out of local musicians, which there were a lot in Woodstock, but only a couple really worked out for us. And we reached the point where we were nearing the end of the album, but in a conversation, we realized that we have to go back to New York to get other people to be on the record. And that's where we would bring in Carlos into that studio. Pete Townsend didn't come up to Woodstock. He was in New York at the time, just as luck would have it. And we got him on the record. Dave Grohl did something remote. His was entirely remote. He was in LA. Would have been too expensive to fly him over.
With the feeling of losing once or twice. Who knows how it may be tomorrow. Oh, I've been waiting for you, and you've been coming to me with such a...
No, it certainly helped that we all lived together and communed together. We had meals together. And it wasn't beneath us to discuss the work over dinner and over breakfast and all that, because that's what we were there for. It was clearly a place where you would love to vacation, but it was, you know, David made it known that this is not a vacation, you're working, you know. So on some beautiful sunny days, we were like indoors for hours and making the new David Bowie album, so that's great compensation. But one day, these rooms were all connected by a telephone intercom, internal intercom, and he phones me up and he goes, "Tony, can you come to my room?" I go, "Yeah." He sounded very, you know, depressed. I said, "Yeah, sure, what happened?" He goes, "Something terrible has happened." And I went to his room, and just as we got there, the second plane hit the other, you know, the first one was down, and we both at the very same time, and my girlfriend, bang, we saw the whole thing go down. So you can't ask for more drama than that. I mean, this album was made under some strange circumstances.